Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in downtown Springfield in front of the Lincoln Depot, a major Lincoln site that just reopened to the public in May of this year after having been closed for some time. It's a very interesting story about how this old depot actually was saved and now is open to the public again. As you'll recall, this is where Lincoln departed for Washington, D.C. after the election for his inauguration in 1861 and gave one of his most famous speeches. But back to the depot for a minute. We mentioned it as a major Lincoln site, Pinky Knoll. You had probably never taken on a project like this before, but you and your husband, John Gray Knoll, thought, you know what? We have a connection to Lincoln in our family. We would really like to see this preserved, and we'd like it to be part of the family business. What an idea.
Well, we saw an ad in the paper that the State Journal Register had written that the depot had been put up for sale. And I have to say, we leaped on it. I was on the phone like 10 minutes later, and because they published the name of the realtor, and we made arrangements to come down. My son and I came down, looked it over, and within 10-15 minutes, we said that we can do this.
You know, this darn thing was built in the 1850s, so you're talking about a building that probably had a lot of problems and issues that you probably had not even, didn't know about and hadn't seen before. And then you got into the process a little bit. The process is what this program's going to be about, because it's very interesting, isn't it?
The process was an education. I have done old buildings, but not commercial ones. And that was a long-term education. And if I had known when I started what I know now, I may have been more afraid. I may have been more afraid, but I didn't know enough to be afraid, and we just plowed ahead.
In less than a year, you and your husband were able to take this building from just an empty shell, and turn it back into the tourist site that it is, and your husband's law office, which is on the mezzanine and the top floor.
That's correct.
And the top floor is really cool because it's modern. It's as modern as it can be. And we're going to get a chance to see all that too. Let's start with the outside of the building though. It has changed over the years, hasn't it?
It has changed. It was initially one story. When Lincoln was here, it was a one-story building. And I have a picture I'll show you when we get inside. It was built as a passenger and freight station, and eventually was extended the entire block down the tracks to Capitol Street. In later days, it was transferred into just a passenger station and then back to just a freight station. And over the years, mostly just freight or storage. They added,
it was not uncommon during the years for the railroads to add freight space after the Civil War, and that's what the second story was all about.
The second story was added about 1900. Adding second stories apparently was not uncommon. They did the same to Lincoln's home. So they did add a second story as the rail traffic and commerce increased for the trains. They needed more space and more superintendent space and more storage, and they put on the second story.
But before we go inside, let's go across the street and take a look. You had some modifications to make on the outside too, so let's go take a look. Pinky, there's a lot of discussion about access. No matter what kind of building you're renovating or building, you got to have access, and that's what you had to do at the front too, right?
Correct. Actually, the building had been closed for visitors for a period of time because there was no handicapped accessibility to the interior, and that is a requirement of the National Park Service. And the State Journal Register had an agreement with the Park Service, which was terminated over the ADA issues. So we had to figure out access to the front of the building for a visitor center, and it was resolved by making a half of a handicap ramp, basically. Handicap on one end and stairs on the other, and I think it successfully works.
And you've also done that for your business entrance over here, where you've got a ramp from the parking lot back all the way up to the mezzanine into the law office area.
This ramp for the law office was a requirement of the city because it's the access serviced a new business. So we put in this additional ramp using the same footprint of the old storage platform. There was a concrete.
Is that right?
Yeah, concrete loading platform for the railroad still there. And we used exactly the same footprint, and it all worked.
I'll be darned.
Yep.
That's terrific.
Yep.
Okay, now for the fun part. Let's go inside.
All right, let's go. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So the first thing a visitor or a passenger would have seen would have been the ticket window.
The ticket window.
Yeah? They want to
Yep.
sell tickets.
Correct.
This has been here all along, and this was in this location when the depot was built.
That's correct. I believe that it was destroyed in one of the fires. There's been 2 fires here, and this has been, this section, this visitor section, both waiting rooms and the ticket booth have been recreated and restored based upon very detailed descriptions which were in the newspaper in 1857. So these 2 waiting rooms, one's for the ladies, one's for the gentlemen. Gentlemen primarily, I understand, spoke politics, and ladies were not included in that discussion. They also had tobacco, and that was over there.
And that was not
And the
right.
ladies and the children in their finery were
Over
on
here,
this
yeah, the
side.
more genteel things
Come
in
on
life.
in.
Okay, thank you. And of course, one of the first things you see are these old stairs, and you have a notation on the wall there about them. But I guess one of the most fascinating things is, who must have climbed those stairs over the years?
So many famous feet in Springfield have stepped on those, from Abraham Lincoln and senators and presidents, local celebrities and politicians and all the citizens of Springfield. There's a lot of history in those stairs.
You bet there is.
Yeah.
And Lincoln steps were on, feet were on there at some point.
That's exactly right.
Of course, I think they probably heated with wood and coal,
Yep.
and there was one of these stoves on each side.
On each side, so in the
This
winter.
was it. This was their
it.
central heating,
This
right.
was
Yeah.
was their heat. So in February, when Lincoln was here, I'm sure they would have huddled
Oh,
around
they had
this
it.
one.
Yeah, they had it going full blast.
Yep.
And of course, the every depot had, from the time it was invented, a telegraph system. And you have, this is an actual working system, isn't it?
This is working. It is working. This was donated to the depot some years ago, and it came with all the other displays and artifacts that are here through the State Journal Register. When we purchased the building, the kids love this. It's a great thing to play with.
Can you imagine? They're used to texting, and they would
Yeah.
get a load of this
Yeah.
thing. This was the highest technology
Yeah,
in the
most
day.
of the kids try to spell their name or something based on the Morse code, and it's not easy.
They don't even know what Morse code is.
Oh, come on in.
Now in here, you'll notice there are like church-like pews in here. This is when the visitor center, when you have visitors in here, they also have a video to watch, which reenacts Lincoln's speech.
There's
and
one
the
of
trip.
Lincoln's speech and one of his trip from Springfield to Washington, D.C. So these pews are just a place for tourists to sit down and listen to that video.
And we just saw that window that gave us an idea of the materials that this building was built with. You talk about beams. You can
They
really
are
see them throughout the place.
substantial. Those are single trees, which just blows
Yeah.
it just blows you away. That
Yeah.
to think that the trees in this area would have been that large.
It's phenomenal. Just above and to our right, there's a picture of a fellow in the corner over here. And people who know Springfield history will know Mr. Herndon. He was Lincoln's,
Last law
final
partner
law
was
partner.
Billy Herndon.
And happens to be related to your husband.
He is. Billy Herndon was Lincoln's last law partner and his biographer. He is my husband's great-great-great-grandfather on his mother's side, on John's mother's side. And this trunk here that you may have just seen, Gray Herndon is my husband's grandfather. And this trunk was found in John's mother's attic after she passed away. So we thought this would be a great place for it.
So your husband John Gray's side there's a direct connection to Lincoln.
Yes, there is.
Which made this a kind of a personal ambition for you, right?
There was, it factored in.
Yeah,
It factored in, definitely, yeah.
One last thing before we leave the
Yeah.
old part of this
Oh, yeah.
building. This massive, and I mean massive safe, was here and was here since the 1850s, I
Yes,
guess.
this safe, as I understand it, survived the first fire in the late 1850s. and was subsequently moved to the second floor, and there it stayed. It was located in the southwest corner of the second floor, and I think we were not the first ones to consider getting it out, but we were the only ones that did get it out. and the interesting thing of it was that the interior here is blistered from the fires, and I didn't realize it until we brought it downstairs. This doorway's in front, so that's why I'm pushing on it. But when we got it down here, I bumped up on this side and was covered with soot. It had never left that corner wall, and it was just covered with.
So it's been through 2 fires.
Yes.
It did not fall through the floor.
It did not.
Was still up on the second floor, and you moved it down here.
Well, we hired someone to bring it down. And
Wow.
They did it.
It weighs tons.
It weighs 5,000 pounds.
Yeah.
They estimated.
Incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's here to stay, I think.
We had to reinforce the floor under it to hold it.
Yeah.
And we had to pre-plan its location. Once it gets here, it's never moving again.
Now, we mentioned earlier in the program that from here on up is now all been modernized. It's all a modern law office.
Right.
And that's really interesting how you did that. So would you take us up there?
Sure, come on in.
Okay, Pinky, let's take this sliding door up to the mezzanine, up to the law office.
Come on up.
It looks a little different on this level.
It is a little different on this level.
Looks a little level. Okay, now we're done. We've walked into the 21st century.
Yep.
Yeah. You've got everything a modern law office needs here, wrapped up in an 1850 shell.
And hopefully it gives the same feel that we used for the decor. We copied off what was down in the visitor center, all of this wainscoting and the heavy-duty trim.
Where's the wainscoting we can see?
This
This is
here.
the wainscoting here, and it's a copy, isn't it?
This copies from what was in the visitor
Yeah,
center.
and it's the same
also
level.
this
It goes
trim.
up just as high,
Yeah.
and the trim
Yeah.
is the same. Isn't
Yeah.
that neat? Yeah.
Yeah, and we had to replace the floors. All the floors here and upstairs have been replaced.
And you've got bamboo. You
This
put
is bamboo,
down.
yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
nice. And it looks
And it looks
old.
good. Yeah, I think it looks great.
New old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it looks great.
And of course, it'll last forever.
It should. Yep, that was the plan.
And you have as much train stuff in here as you can get. I'm looking into the corner now at that lamp. It's a train lantern.
It
is
is.
what it
It
would
is
look
a
like.
train lantern. I actually could have gone a lot crazier on the train stuff. I tried to use some restraint, but that is a lantern that we found. And then we also found this wonderful baggage cart that we are using for a coffee table
love
here
that.
in the waiting room.
I love that. And actually, where'd you find it? It wasn't here, was it?
No, we found it. Some fellow in North Carolina was advertising
Oh,
them.
isn't that neat?
So yeah, I was tickled to death, and I just love it. Turned out wonderfully.
Yeah, that's perfect. So this is where your receptionist would be.
This is the reception area.
And you spend a lot of time here
I do.
welcoming
Yep,
people. And
I do.
And actually, when visitors come to the old part of the building, you're oftentimes the one that has to
I am.
welcome them in too.
Yep,
right?
I am. I
So,
do
and that's
both.
kind of fun,
It
isn't
is.
it?
It's great fun.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
meeting people from all over the world.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
You have to have a number of conference rooms. This is a small conference room
Mm-hmm.
that you and your clients can use. And again, it looks. I want to point something out in here. We keep talking about the way these were built. This beam is a good example of the beams that are holding this building up. And you wonder how it survived 150 years and 2 fires. Well, that's how.
That beam we had to have tested because there was so much fire damage at the top of it, which you now cannot see because of the drop ceilings.
Right.
But it was all black at the top, and we had to have an engineer come in and test its strength to make sure it was okay.
Yeah.
It had sustained a lot of fire damage.
Yeah. Well, apparently it
it's
is,
still-
and
it's
it could
still there.
sustain some, couldn't it?
Yep.
Another example right here. This one doesn't look like it got damaged at all. But you have to have modern amenities when you're putting in a law office. So what you do is you take the old spaces, which might have been closets or just areas that you didn't really have any use for, and you put in modern bathrooms.
There was we actually had to modernize everything in this building, from electrical to internet. Internet was a big hurdle. And we had, that was probably the most difficulty I had was getting internet service here. But we got her done.
Got her done.
Yeah, got her done.
Upstairs are the law offices. Your husband John Gray Knoll has his office up there. Your son Daniel Knoll
Yes.
has his office up there. You got some paralegal space
Yep.
up there, etc. Let's go take a look at that after you.
Get your hiking shoes on. It's a climb.
Well, Pinky, if you do these steps often enough in a week, you'd have some exercise.
I do. I do.
When you get to the top of the steps here, this is the third floor we're on now. This is the top, the second floor, but it's the top floor.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. When you buy an old building like this, you find a lot of interesting stuff, don't you?
Well, I wish we'd found a lot of interesting stuff. We found some pieces, and this is one, exactly as you see it, a piece of wood framed, and written on the back, it said, a piece of wood from the original law office of Abraham Lincoln. We went with it, had the plaque made, and hung it up.
And it was under this building.
It was under the building.
So somebody, during the years when Sangamon State University was involved with this, probably they were collecting historical things and found it and didn't know what to do with it, so they put it under the building.
They tucked it away, and
somebody someday will find it and be charmed with it.
Yeah, I hope so.
I love it. And we don't even know what building this is
We
from.
don't know which building. We have no idea. We just went with it.
Okay, now this is really becomes what if you're opening a law office, this is sort of what you'd like to have, I think. It carries that mezzanine feeling along with it.
Exactly.
But it has all you need to.
Everything we need is right here, from sort of the bullpen where the paperwork gets sorted and put together to what little libraries we need now is here, and big conference room and video equipment and secretaries, bookkeepers, and the attorneys are all up here.
This is the area we were just looking at. This is where you have some clerical help and paralegals, et cetera, to do some work out here.
Yes, we do.
And this is kind of cool because you've got a perfect little kitchenette. So I mean your employees can have whatever they need, and of course it's all updated and modern. I love the tile floor, and it's just really tasty.
Thank you. And we have a half bathroom up
Another
here.
restroom here.
Yep.
I think we showed the one downstairs.
Downstairs,
Yeah.
exactly.
More bamboo flooring, and the law offices are back here. Would this be your husband's office?
This is my husband's office.
Okay.
Yep. This is his office, and he has a view of the county building and Form 30 over there. And we just love these spaces. They're comfortable and convenient.
Now, who's on the horse over here?
Well, that would be me. That would be me.
When we talked to you earlier on another story, we looked at all your horse
Yes.
ribbons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of figured that's
Yeah.
probably who that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Okay, I wish John
that's
was here today because I'd like to ask him a few questions about this process, but he had better things to do.
He's in court this morning.
Okay, and this is your son's office.
This is Daniel's
Daniel.
office. Yep. Again, a very much a mirror image of John's. We gave Daniel the option of choosing which one of these two rooms, and he decided he'd take the corner office. And we agreed that was probably a good plan. He'd be here longer than John, so he got the corner.
This building, and I'm sure there are all kind of issues involved, but one of them is being on a railroad track, and a busy railroad track. So you got trains that not only sound of the wheels themselves, but the whistles blowing all day long. How'd you deal with it?
We had we actually hired a sound engineer, an audio engineer, and to come in, and we tested he tested the decibels of the trains right here, which was just ear-splitting. What we ended up doing was we replaced all of the old windows, and with new, modern, multi-paned, insulated windows. They're not made with glass. They're made with this kind of plexiglass, which is helping with the sound. Plus, they fit like a glove. Every window was a different size.
Is that right?
Yeah. Every window
man.
was a different size.
So you had to cut every window to be made custom.
Every
custom
window
made.
was custom made.
And then 3 or 4 panes to keep the sound out.
Exactly.
With plexiglass.
With plexiglass. And in addition to the windows, we put several layers of walls on so that there is no, for example, where the outlets are, the outlets do not go through to an exterior wall. So they don't, there's 2 more layers beyond the layer you see, so that the sound is stopped before it gets to a place where it can actually enter the building.
Wow.
And in between the layers, there's more sound insulation as well as insulation for heating and cooling. And then finally, the noise from that might be coming down because of the ceilings. We did 2 extra ceiling layers. Then we added the mechanicals and sprayed them all black so you cannot see them. Then we added this decorative ceiling with the wood and the tile. And the tile is also more soundproofing.
Wow.
But it has worked fabulously well.
I have not heard a train go by. I'm sure one has since we've been here, and I haven't heard it.
You would have heard it.
Yeah.
You would have heard it.
I must not have been paying attention.
Dead quiet,
I must not have been
you would
paying
have heard it.
attention.
You would have felt it.
Yeah.
Maybe more than you would have recognized the sound.
Dozens of windows, all different sizes, and you kept the window space, the window dimensions, and had windows made for these dimensions.
Right, and these windows are exactly the same appearance as the windows that were in there.
That's perfect. And if you look out here, if you look at this American flag, that's significant too, isn't it?
That flag is the flag that would have been waving in 1861. It has 34 stars in what they call a bullet pattern. And we were able to locate one to purchase, and we fly it on special occasions. We don't let it hang out there full time. But
Okay, Pinky, we don't want to forget the conference room. Every law office has a conference room, right?
every law office has to have a conference room. This is our large. We have a little one down the mezzanine level, and then this is a double that size.
Right. And of course, this is decked out with all the high-tech stuff, of which was difficult to put into this building.
It was very
especially
hard.
the internet stuff
Yeah,
that you need.
very hard to get internet here.
Yeah.
So, but we got her done,
Yeah.
and thank you, Comcast.
Yeah.
And here we are.
You know, we've been talking a whole lot about the kind of things that happened through history that this building had to survive, the 2 fires, et cetera. I want to start with this picture right here because this is an interesting angle. We're looking at the depot from the south.
That's correct.
Right? And this is after you can see that it's a 2-story building, and this is the area that we're in right now. But this storage area, this warehouse area, went a clear block, didn't it?
An entire block. Yep.
And what this picture shows, which I'm sure historians know, there are 2 tracks on this side, and there are the tracks that we're familiar with over on this side. These tracks are all gone now.
They're all gone.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. I was just so surprised to see this picture. I had no idea those tracks on the west side.
And we also talked about the 1968 fire. This is really a good blown up photo right here. The reason, what I find so astounding about this is when you look through the windows, you can see that the roof is completely gone.
Gone.
You can imagine what the weather must have done to this building.
And I've seen pictures. There's a newspaper. It doesn't show up very clearly. There's one over there of the firemen, and the flames are coming up through the roof, and the firemen are breaking out the windows.
And they
It's
they think that was arson.
Yes,
isn't that
they
pitiful?
thought it was arson, but never could prove it. And of
Yeah.
course, the State Journal Register had paper stored in the warehouse section, which provided
Oh boy,
lots of
paper.
fuel,
Yeah.
lots of fuel for that fire. Yeah, they had quite a time with it. And I don't know whether this picture is quite dark here, but this is a picture of the
Yeah, you do.
interior after the fire.
You do
and
get
it's,
a good look at how charred and messed up everything
it's
was.
black because it's so charred.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The safe survived.
the safe survived.
Yeah, you can't hurt that safe, that's for sure. Oh boy. And now this building is really seen, really looks good now.
Thank
It's
you.
Terrific. You're collecting this art, and this is great Abraham Lincoln art for this place. These Chicago and Illinois Midland Railway calendars have become a collector's item.
They
haven't
have become collector's items. There was a series of a dozen or so pictures. The original pictures have been donated to the Abraham Lincoln Museum, And these copies were, at the time, I think relatively widely circulated. They were produced in the 40s and early 50s. But at some point, the stockpile of them were destroyed in a warehouse fire. So they are now highly collectible, and we're just thrilled to have found a gentleman here in Springfield who had some and sold them to us.
And one of them in the collection is, this is particularly significant because this is Lincoln in February of 1861 as he stood on the back of the train and delivered his famous speech at this depot.
That is correct. That is Farewell to Lincoln.
Wow.
And I'm just thrilled to have that one especially.
I'll bet you are. I'll bet you are. How nice. Okay, one last little thing to look at here, which is really, really cute. When you're redesigning a place and you're thinking about, okay, now how's it going to look from the outside? You end up with these kind of
Odd spots.
odd spots. That's a good way to put
It's
it.
an odd spot. We had to place an interior wall, which of course is this one here. And the best place to equally divide the building, the wall was going to end in the middle of this window. And then we kept the wall, but we backed it away from the window. So from the exterior, you do not see it. It made a funny little
Nook,
triangle
kind of a nook
here.
yeah.
And my grandson has appropriated it for his office, so he stands on his stool and watches the trains go by and does his work. Does his work, and he has his little train book, and he keeps busy there.
That's funny. Okay, so he likes to visit Grandma and Grandpa at the
Oh, he
law
loves to
office,
come
so,
here. Oh yeah, he comes on Wednesday evenings during the summer. The Park Service has provided Abraham Lincoln to come here. And my little grandson John comes and he pretends he's the ticket master and he sells tickets.
Do you give him one of those little Casey hats?
He has
and
one.
a
He
train
doesn't-
whistle?
He doesn't. He has
Yeah.
train whistles. So,
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a great visit.
Oh, we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we've
thanks
had
a
a lot of fun, and we're just thrilled with how the building
Yeah,
turned out.
you should be proud. The Knoll Law Office, the Lincoln Depot, is open for visitors Monday through Friday from 10 to 4. Pinky Knoll will be the one that welcomes you in when you come to visit. And like she said, that Abraham Lincoln reenactment is on Wednesdays in the evening during the summer months. With another Illinois Story in Springfield, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.